pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Leader, president. She's president of the North East Tennessee Honor Flight, and that she was the #1 out of the 30 honor flights in America. Can you imagine that? So let's give Edie a big she should have been a teacher. I thought surely she's a teacher because she was in control. She said, here's what she said. She said, when I talk, I'm not talking over anyone else. So you listen. And we listened for 3 days. All right, Edie, come. You're in charge and tell about your great program, okay?
I will, Ray.
All right,
Thank you
good.
very much.
I'll take my hat off.
You take your hat off. Good morning.
Good morning.
Pull it. What a great honor to be here to let you know what is so dear and close to my heart is our veterans. I have Arlen, Mr. Hall, Joe Jefferson, Ray. Who else has been on an honor flight trip that I don't see?
Dr. Bill,
Yes, he went on the Honor Air out of Knoxville.
96 years old.
Yep, 96 years old. Going to try to get him on the honor flight for October and let him experience a bus trip up to Washington. Honor Flight Northeast Tennessee has taken 240 men and women, veterans, from the greater Tri-City area on 10 well-deserved honor flight missions to visit their memorials in the nation's capital. And it's the community, the events, the benefits that we do that makes these missions happen. We're not funded by anybody except the community. Honor Flight Northeast Tennessee will continue its mission of escorting our veterans on a free mission trip. We want every veteran to experience their honor flight. We're asking people, if you know a World War II veteran, Korean, or a Vietnam veteran, please help us get them signed up. And it's really simple. You can go on our website, www.honorflightnet10.org, print out an application and get your family member or your neighbor, somebody at church signed up. Our primary is World War II, and I know there's many World War II veterans out there that has not heard about our program, and we need to get them on before it's too late. We travel on Friday morning to Washington, D.C. by bus. But the night before on Thursday, I bring our veterans and guardians into a meet and greet where everybody meets their guardian. And a guardian is not somebody to take their independence away. It's somebody to be a friend to for all weekend. We have a little program set up on Thursday night for them. In April, we did a holding of the flag. And here in Kingsport, Jack Collins, we presented him with a flag, folded flag. He was one of our veterans that, James Collins, I'm sorry, James Collins. He served over in Utah, Battle of the Bulge, Normandy, was on the front line. I met the man for the first time. Never told his story, never talked about it, but I went to his house and he showed me that he had lost his leg clear up to the body. And he told me when he woke up after being hit, his leg was clear over in the field. And thank goodness it was cold, or he would have died. We had another, a while back in 2014, we took 2 100-year-old veterans that went. And like Ray said, I went to both of their funerals. I never say goodbye to my friends. I say until we meet again. The men and women who answered our country's call during those times are deserving of our admirations. They stood their post in the United States and foreign lands to preserve freedom. We want to take them on an honor flight to thank them for their service and honor them at their memorials. A lot of veterans would ask why I didn't serve overseas. I said, did you wear the uniform? Yes, I did. You have the right to go also. It doesn't matter if you served overseas or did the work here in the stateside. We choose to take a bus because of the cost and because of the time period. Most of the honor flights, there's 131 hubs nationwide in 43 states. And there's only 3 hubs out of that number that does a bus, and we're one of them. As the doctor over there can tell you, it's a 1-day flight. You go on a plane, you look at the memorials, and you're back on that plane and back home. We have the opportunity to travel at our speed, at our time, and on our schedule, not the plane schedule. And it's actually a lot better because they get to interact with one another a lot longer. They get to talk to one another a lot longer. And we get to spend time and listen to their stories. And the best part also is coming home on Sunday, we get to go to the D-Day Memorial. And we've had many veterans that served. Honor Flight is a nonprofit organization. We are 501c3. We're based off of the branch of the Honor Flight Hub in Springfield, Ohio. Earl Morris, the founder of Honor Flight, started the Honor Flight program in 2005 by taking 12 of his patients, which are World War II, on small private planes to the memorial. Well, it got out what he did, and Honor Flight program was born. Honor Flight Northeast Tennessee, I started the hub in February 2012 with a $20 bill. And I thought, I'm not going to make my gold. And my goal was to take a Honor Flight mission October 2012. Well, folks, because of the community and you all, that trip was met. And I got to take 22 veterans to Washington and to honor them. We do many benefits, fundraisers, and our coming up fundraisers starting August 1st is something that came to me while I was asleep. And I'm going to call it the Purse of Honor, Duffel the Dough. We're going to have a purse, which is sort of like a duffel bag. And that purse is going to be traveling all over the community for donations. You wouldn't believe what my goal is to have that purse filled with is $100,000, if not more. That benefit fundraiser will close August 1st of 2018, so it'll be traveling all over for 1 year. August 10th, we'll be here in the Kingsport location, Johnson City location, and Bristol at Freddy's for a fundraiser. And I know a lot of people like hamburgers, so go in August 10th from 10:30 till 9 o'clock at night and have a hamburger, and 15% of your ticket will come to Honor Flight. Will be also August 12th. How many's been at the Honor Flight breakfasts? Arlen? 2? Well, you guys got my order to start talking. Let them know about our Honor Flight breakfast. We have 4 a year, and it's the biggest fundraiser we have done. We and the volunteers all cook the breakfast. And you come in, drop a donation in the jug, and fill your belly and enjoy. And that's from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. And it's at the Central Church of Christ in Johnson City at 2722 East Oakland Avenue. And you can get all this information on our website, or if you're on Facebook, you can find it on our Facebook page. We're also going to do a tables of honor. This is being put on for us, and what you do is you're going to buy a table, a round table with 8 chairs for $400. That's $50 a chair. Then you come in right before the benefit starts, the day before or the morning of. Decorate that table any way you want to. You can decorate it in any theme. We have 2 live bands that's going to perform. We'll have a live auction, and we'll have dinner for you. So if you want to buy a table in honor of somebody, you want to buy a table to have an early Christmas party, come see me, because we can get it all set up for you. Then, of course, we have a New Year's Eve party to close out our Honor Flight year. But the September 9th Tables of Honor is at the Best Western in Johnson City at 2406 North Rome Street. And that also will be on our website. These and many donations will keep our Honor Flight going and honoring our veterans. We also have a Facebook page. It's Honor Flight of Northeast Tennessee. There you can go on and see a lot of our things. But the best thing of this program to me is I get to hug every one of these veterans. And it's just like hugging my daddy. I don't have my daddy anymore. I lost him at the age of 17, when I was 17. And it just makes me feel so good knowing that these men and women that went overseas and stayed in stateside served for my freedom, so I can learn to honor them and to hug them and to love them. Right now, I'd like to call all my veterans that has gone on our mission trip up here with me. Mr. Joe Jefferson, World War II veteran, but he didn't go as a veteran. He's been on 2 of our missions. he went as a guardian. I can't remember who your first veteran was.
Ray Judd.
Ray Judd, that's right. I was just checking to see if you remember. And then his second veteran that he was guardian to was his brother-in-law, Charlie Walker.
Both of them were up at D-Day Memorial. We picked them up there.
Johnny, use the phone, man.
Well,
Come here, Joe. Come here, honey.
I don't have anything to say.
My dog's a little older, Joe, and can't hear very well.
Well, we picked both of them up at the D-Day Memorial. They were both associated with the memorial, and Ray is a pilot, and he arranges for a flyover when we're there eating lunch. So.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Arlen?
Wearing
Oh,
too
in
much
front of-
jewelry.
I don't have any on.
I'm Arlen Hensley. I went on the first honor flight in October 2012. And I was lucky because I'm a Korean War veteran, combat wounded in Korea, 1953. And I got to know Edie at the Fun Fest. We were in a big military tent up where the Veterans Memorial is. And she was sitting beside me, and so I got to know her. And she got to tell me about the honor flight. And I told her, I said, well, I have a good buddy of mine who's a World War II veteran. He was in the Pacific for 21 months on a LST. That's a landing ship tank. That's one of the ones that goes right up on the beach, and the front opens up, and the tanks or troops or trucks go out. And they had another name for it. They, instead of a LST, landing ship tank, they called it a low, slow target. So I told Edie, I said, now he's going to need someone to look after him. So I was able to go on that first trip. There was 2 Korean War veterans. The rest were World War II veterans, myself and another Korean veteran. And I'm telling you, my buddy, I had to twist his arm to make him go, but he wants to go back again. He had such a good time, and we just enjoyed it. You can't believe what a great feeling it is to see these memorials. I had seen the Korean and the Vietnam memorials before, but I had never seen the World War II memorial. We had a reunion in Washington for the company I was in Korea. And we walked down to the Korean Memorial and visited it, and the Vietnam Memorial too, but I had visited that before. It was the first time I'd seen the Korean Memorial. But you're treated like a king. If you never felt welcome home, you do on that trip. Yeah, it's just wonderful. They make you feel, and the lady told us when we started to get off the bus, at the memorial, she said, well, if you want to buy a souvenir, don't pay for it. I said, you want us to steal it? She said, no, bring it to us, we'll pay for it. I wouldn't have done that, but it's just something you can't believe. Now, like the man from Knoxville, I was doing a reunion in Pigeon Forge for my company I was in Korea with, and I was to the airport to pick someone up one night. They were coming in late, and all these people came in with flowers and balloons, and I asked them, I said, what's going on? They said, the honor flight's coming back in. So they leave that morning, come back that evening. Now we get to leave on Friday and stay the whole weekend up there. You get to stop in Bedford, Virginia too. That's a war memorial there. And I don't know if you know where Bedford is. It's up south of Roanoke. The reason they have a memorial there is because in World War II on D-Day, they had the most people killed per capita than any place in the United States. They had a reserve unit there, and they were called into active duty, and almost all of them got killed on D-Day. So they have a huge memorial there, and it's a very nice place to visit. Nice memorial. And so all the memorials are very nice. But you just can't beat the camaraderie that you have with your guys that you take on a trip, the friends you make, and it's just marvelous. And this lady, she does more for veterans than anybody I know of.
Amen.
I'm the Vice Commander of the Korean War Veterans Association for the Tri-Cities, Chapter 289. I'm also on the Board of Governors for the Tri-City Military Affairs Council, which covers all 3 cities, and all we do is try to help veterans. And I want to thank this lady for everything she's done.
Mr. Hall.
Okay. And I told him when I went on the trip, I said, I don't feel like I'm really should be in this group. I said, I didn't serve overseas. I spent my whole time at Fort Lee, Virginia, after I got out of basic training at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. So I spent my time, I worked in an office. I didn't have a weapon assigned to me. I said, I really don't feel like should be in this group, but in what she told me, said you served. And that's what counts. I didn't volunteer, I was drafted. But that's the best thing that ever happened to me. I won't give you the whole story, but because of that, I met my wife. And as a result of that, my kids were born. So I can honestly say that being drafted is the best thing that ever happened to me. Now, I want to get back to the trip itself. Every place we stopped, they had children, what ages, I don't know what but they greeted us, and sometimes there would be 100 of them, maybe sometimes over 100. They would be lined up to greet us everywhere we stopped. And it just made you feel real good that all these children were out there to greet us and to honor us for our having served. And I want to thank Edie again for my getting to go.
Every veteran that I take gets a wheelchair, no matter what, because it's a lot of walking. One thing about the children, he's right. One honor flight trip we took, there was over 300 that meet us at the World War II Memorial. And Joe, you was on that trip, weren't you? Well, we went in the evening, and we were supposed to be back at the hotel and everything, and at a certain time, and I said, that's it. You just keep them right there and let them shake those hands of those kids and the people that came to thank them for their service. And the reason why we take the wheelchairs is because every woman loves to see a man in a wheelchair, and they get back on that bus with lipstick kisses all over them. We won't tell the wives this. Ray?
Thank you, Edie. It was just like Horace said. Horace is in my Sunday school class, and he had such a great time, and he said, Ray, you need to go. I was in Japan for 11 months and 8 days at the end of the Korean War there, and we had 1 or 2 night problems when the Chinks kind of started acting up again, but I left my wife and my little girl. She was 17 months old when I came back. So that was sad then, but I'm so glad that I did get to serve. And the motorcycle people, Edie called them, what was her name, Mama?
Motorcycle Mama.
Motorcycle Mama. Okay, we had 50 to 75 take us from the western thing to Withville, Virginia, and we pulled in there. We walked into their service building, like Civic Auditorium. The mayor, the sheriff, and everyone else talked, gave us cookies, tea, and coffee, and things like that, and said, hey, you all did great. Then we went on to Washington. We had motorcycles and patrolmen and police stop the entrance into the freeways in Washington, and our bus went everywhere. We went by escort, and then we had such a wonderful time there. And you mentioned the War Memorial. Well, we went to the Marine Memorial, Iwo Jima, and our guardians rode us out there, and all the tourists came, and she had there was a class, 6th graders, maybe 150 of them at least. They came and they shook all of our hands with the parents, patted us on the back and had our pictures taken with us. And it was things, and we went to the Air Force thing, and they had the Air Force band doing these silent drill teams and things. Everywhere we went, it was one crescendo after another. It was just, it was really touching, and you just felt so great. When I was in Japan, I never thought that I'd have a welcome like that or something. And when we came in, well, D-Day was so great, but you need to get up there. I'm going to take Sally up there to see that program. Well, about 40 miles out from Bedford, there were 2 motorcycles picked us up, and then more. And time we got to D-Day, there's about 75 motorcyclists there that the Mama motorcycle had gotten for us. And we pulled in there, and they'd let the veterans off first. There's about 19, and then a bunch of them were guardians that helped some of them that were very crippled off. But it was really a great thing there. And they gave us barbecue free, and some of us got a tour of the thing in the little electric cars, and it was so moving. We got into the Tennessee there were 150 motorcyclists there, and they took us on in there. So, but are you going to tell about Collins?
Yeah, I'll mention it, yeah.
Okay, good. You want him to go ahead?
Go ahead,
And tell them about that now. All right. He sat right in front of me, and Joe's going to tell you about James Collins, 94 years old, and he was there. So, thank you.
Well, I'll tell you about 2 people that went on this last trip with us that impressed me. Mr. Collins was one. He landed on D-Day at Utah Beach, which was not quite as bad as Omaha Beach, but he fought all the way through France and got his legs blown off by a tank during the Battle of the Bulge. And like Edie said, if it hadn't been so cold, he would have bled to death. But his body temperature was so low that he didn't. He told me he'd been sitting in that wheelchair for 74 years. But you know, he was upbeat and happy and just a nice man to meet. The other one was from up at the D-Day Memorial. He's a lieutenant colonel in Marines, and his commanding officer, or he served with him. If you go to the Korean War Memorial, there's 11 people, I believe, in it. But anyway, 10 of them, if it's 11, 10 of them, as you walk around, there's no statue. Some statue is looking straight at you the whole time you're there, except one guy. He's in the back row. He's looking back behind him. He's the commanding officer. He's looking to see if his other men are coming up. Well, he's the only one who has his real face. The rest of them are just generic faces they picked out of archives. Don't know who they were, although the ranger there will tell you that people have come and identified relatives and stuff. But anyway, this guy who was commander of that unit depicted there at the Korean Memorial lost an arm, a leg, and an eye. He still lives up in Maryland, and this guy was with us, is in contact with him all the time. So some really interesting people go. So I encourage anybody that can go to go, and if they can't go as a veteran, to volunteer as a guardian and go that way, because you get to interface with all of them. And Ray was talking about the D-Day Memorial at Bedford. My sister and brother-in-law retired down to Smith Mountain Lake, which is right at Bedford. And were there when they built the memorial and were docents for until they both got too old to do it. But they could tell you a lot about the place. The person that was really responsible for it was named Bob Slaughter. He grew up, he was born in Bristol, but his father lost his job in the Depression, so they moved to Roanoke where he found a job. When I went to school with Bob's younger brother, Bill, lived about 4 blocks from him. But anyway, he joined the reserves or the National Guard when he was 15 years old. He, after the war was over, he landed at Omaha Beach on D-Day. After the war was over, he and a bunch of other veterans got talking about it and decided to build a memorial there in Roanoke because Roanoke had, I think, 15 killed on D-Day. They were another National Guard company. But then they decided it ought to be at Bedford because Bedford had 19 killed on D-Day. It was the largest percentage of any incorporated town in the country. We had about 2,000 people at that time. So that's where it got started. And Bob ramrodded it through until he died about 5 years ago now. But I'd encourage you to go up there sometime. It's 200 miles from here, all interstate, practically all interstate, so no problem.
I'll tell you a story about when we were in Bedford. This lady was talking about when they landed on Omaha Beach, they had the hooks that they shot up on the top of the hill to climb up the cliffs on. And she said, well, they didn't reach all the way to the top. I said, well, you know why, don't you? She said, no, why? She didn't know. She was the tour guide around. I said, well, when they practiced, the ropes were dry, and it didn't take as much explosive to get them up there because when they got off the barges, they got wet, and the explosives they had in there would not carry them all the way to the top. She looked at me and said, I'll have to keep that in my resume so I can tell them. But that's one of the things that happened on Omaha Beach. Caused a lot of them to get killed because they couldn't rappel up the cliffs. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is what Honor Flight's all about. Hang on.
Somebody told me this. One of the guardians, I understand, had gone. The guardians, they paid their own way. What did they pay? $355.
$375.
$375 to go. They volunteer their time and they pay their own way. And one, I think he's been, what, about 23 times? The same one has been as a guardian for...
Larry Bennett's been there about 6 times.
6 times, okay.
You're increasing our trips.
So I just add that one a little bit.
Yes. But that gentleman pays for our police escort when we get in Washington, D.C., so he gets a trip to Washington with our veterans. But folks, this is what it's all about. These 4 guys standing here, being able to come home and tell their stories. Going back to Mr. Collins, we have a closing ceremony on Sunday night when we get back to the hotel. I was just getting ready in April to close the program up, to do our song, and we have Jerry Pierce that does the taps with his saxophone, and I started to walk by Mr. Collins, and he took the microphone away from me. His comment was, I've never talked about my story, but tonight I want to open up and let people know what I went through, why I went through it, and how I went through it. When I hear this then I know my job was completely well done in honoring and taking these veterans to Washington, D.C. When the wives and the girlfriends or the daughters or the sons or the grandchildren call and say, Edie, what did you do to my father, my husband, my grandpa? And then I'm thinking, oops, I'm in trouble. And I says, what's wrong? And they said, he came home Sunday night. We never went to bed. He sat and talked to us all about his experience in the war. Again, then I know my job was well done. Because that's the purpose of Honor Flight. That's the purpose of all the hubs based off of the national, is knowing that these men and women come back off these trips. As I say, they unlock that toolbox or the sewing basket and let it all out. I had a veteran says, now I can go home, lay my head on the pillow, and sleep peacefully. Because I know where my family or my friend is. So as I said, what a great honor it is to be able to hug these men and ladies that I take and to honor them and give them the respect they deserve. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Edie.
So I'm going to open up the floor and let you all ask me questions. If I don't have the answer today, I'll get your name, phone number, and you'll have the answer before you go to bed tonight. So any questions?
I
No?
do have one.
Okay, go ahead.
These are veterans of the three wars. What about people who served, and they served between wars?
They are still able to go.
You know,
Absolutely. And my understanding, they are building a Desert Storm Memorial up there on the mall too. So anybody that served in uniform, to me, has the right to go. Whether it's World War II, Korean, Vietnam, any war, I will take them. Do you have a question, sir? Oh.
You have applications.
I have applications for veterans, I have applications for guardians, and I also have application if anybody wants to volunteer with me. It's a lot of fun putting these trips together.
It's a lot of fun on the trip.
It's a lot of fun on the trip. Yesterday, I started working on the October trip, and in the process of calling the veterans applications I've got. And it's always first come, first serve. It's not, well, I like the application on this one, I think I'll put him or her on. It's always first come, first serve. So get your applications in and get in line to go. When I take our men and women up there, I just don't take them up on a bus or drop them off at the memorials and say, go enjoy your memorial. At the Iwo Jima Memorial, I had the 8th and I Marine Silent Drill Team there to perform their rifle show for the veterans. This last time in April, I had the Air Force Silent Drill Team perform the rifle. In October, I'm working on getting the Navy Silent Drill Team to come and perform. Because the applications I have more Navy. So I'm trying to work on that. At the World War II Memorial, I have the Coast Guard, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, the Army. There, the Honor Guard's there, and a soloist that sings the national anthem, and then we play the taps again to honor the veterans. So it's just not going up the highway, drop them off at their memorials and say, see you in so many minutes, get back on the bus. I make sure these guys and gals have an enjoyable trip.
Edie, she said we were nearing Tennessee thing, she said, mail call, mail call. So she had the Guardians pass out a nice navy blue nylon tape with a cord on it. And that was letters from students and a few adults and things from Florida to Washington, Maryland, everywhere. We had, Horace, how many did you have on your trip, letters?
I don't
Did you
know,
get
it's a
some?
large bag full.
Yeah.
I still have
Well,
one.
I left mine on the bus. And I called Edie up the next morning, she said, Ray, I have it and I'll get it to you. So there was at least 80 to 100 of those children and people from Florida and everywhere. She did things like that constantly every one of those 3 days.
I also forgot to mention that on the trip, you go by the tomb of the unknown soldier. And usually somebody from our group usually goes up and places a wreath on that tomb while the guards are there, while they change the guards. And that's very emotional too, to see that.
Any other questions, comments?
Do you have a wait list, or can you generally accommodate every applicant?
I have, I think, going to be on this October trip. I've got 5 more spaces that I'm not filling yet, but I think I've got about 8 to 9 World War II. The rest is Korean, and then I've got 3 Vietnam that's terminally ill. We do take the Vietnam on our mission trips if they are terminally ill, or any soldier that is terminally ill from the other wars. I do try to get them on the trip as soon as possible.
How many do you take?
I take 1 bus, and I take about 25 veterans, along with the 25 guardians, and then my staff. And my staff and I will be guardians, so I can get more veterans on the trip. And like Ray said, I just had a full hip replacement February, and my trip was April, and yes, I did make it, and I went with a walker, and we just had a great time, and nothing keeps me down. And I might get tired once in a while, but I put the batteries in and energize myself, and off I go. So it's my dedication, my passion, and my honor, and my love for these men and women that has gone out and served for our freedom. How many other veterans do I have? How many World War II veterans do I have? 3. And do I have applications for you? I got them though here. How many Korean?
Can I go again?
That's one thing about it. When they come off the trips, can I go again? How many Vietnam? Okay, I've got plenty of applications. If I run out, they'll make me some more in there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for this opportunity for me to be able to tell you about the Honor Flight program. God bless you all. God bless America, and God bless our soldiers. Thank you.
Edie, this region and the veterans particularly are very fortunate to have you in the area, and I can tell that you're somebody that makes things happen
Yes, sir.
in a nice way. So
Thank you.
Good. We
Thank
appreciate you. And she'll be around to answer any questions that you might have. Is that right?
You bet.
Good, man. Thank you very much.